Do you want to know how a narcissist handles rejection, or if a narcissist misses you when you go no contact? If you want to know what a narcissist thinks when you block them, or if you go no contact with a narcissist forever, or what cutting off all contact with a narcissist does to them. In this video, you will learn how narcissists will behave during no contact and how you can protect yourself from their manipulation tactics that will derail you from living your best life. So the first thing is that they're going to maybe try to start going back to what worked for them before, because remember, there are those 3 different ways that they interact in relationships. There are the 3 different phases, which is idealization, devaluation, and discard. They start off with love bombing, or that idealization phase where they show up. Whether it's not always a romantic, it can be a business situation, which it was for me. And they show up in your space, and they seem like they're absolutely perfect. And then they start to devalue you. And then there's the discard phase, but they kinda go back and forth between the phases. So they're going to go back to what worked before. Oh, we can always work this out. We've always been so good together. We've always been able to do things. Why do you need to be so rigid? Why do you need to be so difficult? They'll try to get you to be charmed by them again. Whatever that worked before to charm you, they'll go back to that. And sometimes, it's called hoovering, where they're basically coming back and say, "Oh, maybe I haven't talked to you in a while." And suddenly, you get that ping in your inbox, or in your DMs, or whatever. And you're like, "Oh, I haven't talked to that person, why? What are they doing here?" So they're going to go back to trying to charm you in some ways, so that's number 1. The next thing is that they may try to come on even stronger. You barely feel like you can breathe sometimes with them. Now all of a sudden, they're showing up at your house or showing up at your office. They happen to be talking to everybody that you know. You just can't get away from this person. There they are. They may call you incessantly. They may text you incessantly. They may escalate their efforts on all the bad things that they're doing. Manipulating situations, projection, denial, deflection, lying, all the things that they normally do, but now on steroids, because remember, with the narcissists, you're either for them or against them. They're very black and white. So they may escalate their tactics. You'll see them coming on much more strongly. And then the third thing that they will likely do when you go no contact is start that triangulation, which is kinda in the discard phase. That's when you start to see the birth of the smear campaign. So they'll escalate even the triangulation, meaning that they're lining up their flying monkeys. They're talking to people that you know. They want you to feel excluded. They want you to feel isolated. They want you to be punished for going no contact with them. So they want you to think that they're doing great and you are making a huge mistake by going no contact with them. They're going to have everybody in your world against you, and everyone's going to line up for them. And everyone's going to think you're the crazy one, or you're the bad one, or maybe you're the narcissist. And they'll try to divide you in that way. So isolate you, manipulate situations, triangulate that smear campaign. So that's kinda all goes into number 3 as far as triangulation, smear campaign, and lining up flying monkeys against you. So the fourth thing is that their narcissistic injury could be triggered, and therefore, narcissistic rage comes flying out. So now they're not just trying to hover over you, they're not just pushing you more, they're not just triangulating, they're not just escalating. Now it's like they're in full-on rage. You will do what I want, you will come back, and you will be punished. And sometimes I think they go into this rage state just so that you're afraid, just so that you are punished. It's not just that they're angry. I mean, I know that they're angry too, you know, they're like 2-year-olds in an adult body. So they're literally having a tantrum now. They're literally super angry. And sometimes, during this phase, that's when they start to actually become undone. They start to make mistakes. And that's when you know you're starting to close in on them, and in a negotiation setting, that's when you know that your tactics are actually starting to work. And that's when you are actually the most vulnerable to going, "Oh my God, I don't think I have the stomach for this," but that's when you gotta keep going. Because narcissists are always the worst right before they're ready to give up. So that leads me to number 5, which is that sometimes they completely collapse, they just become undone. They don't know what to think about their world because they do have a very fragile sense of self. For them, the world is a place of survival that they have to survive. And so sometimes they do collapse, and that's number 5. And the last thing is that eventually, if you do it the right way and you create the right strategy and you have the right leverage and you figure out how to cut off any source of supply from you, that means you're not intimidated, you're not scared. Your fear goes away, all of that because now, they just realize they're not getting any supply from you anymore at all. And they're like vultures. So there's nothing left in this carcass over here. So they will eventually, and this is number 6, find narcissistic supply somewhere else, because they have to have it. It is what they feed on, it's their lifeblood, it's their oxygen. But you just want to make sure that you are no longer a source of that narcissistic supply for them. So eventually, your no contact will absolutely work.